The world of Kayfabe. Stories within the wrestling world manifest themselves as true. Stories that include supernatural activity, horrifically tasteless events, and one time, a 77-year-old woman gave birth to a hand. Death, crime, and other powerful circumstances surround the wrestling industry, as told by the wrestling industry on weekly television and pay-per-view events. But how bad are these circumstances? That's where I come in, the purveyor of truth, to find out what is right and what is wrong in Kayfabe.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to In Kayfabe. I'm here with the wonderful Ella Jay. Ella, thank you so much for being a part of In Kayfabe. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. How are you today?
No one asked that. I'm great. I'm doing just fine.
That's good, especially in this crazy world right now. We all need a little bit of some sanity sometimes.
That is so true. Now, Ella, I have a question for you. What is your relationship with professional wrestling?
So, professional wrestling has been a big part of my life for over 12 years now, since finding it as a middle schooler with Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk was the first match I remember seeing. And then ever since then, I really followed along with attending live events and then joined Twitter, the wrestling community on Twitter. And then 2.5 years ago, I guess now at this point, I made my own podcast. And since then, it's evolved to now I'm a part of like wrestling media with a bunch of other podcasting and hosting and interviewing and writing, and most recently making my commentary debut very, very shortly next week at the time of recording this. So it's really evolved since then. So I started out as a fan, still am definitely, but now I am proudly a part of the wrestling media community as well.
That's really cool. Do you have any experiences that you would like to share about how great that is?
Yeah, so I mean, the first in-person like interviews or whatever I got to do was this year at NWA Empower actually. So I was there at the whole NWA Empower weekend 73 and then the first night of tapings, and I got to meet a lot of the girls who were on the card and of course the 73 crew, and really got to network with a lot of the talent doing interviews, and of course networking and connecting with a lot of other media personnel who I worked with actually in real life, and we all got to meet together in person. So it was great to finally see everybody together and do my first on-site correspondence, because I'm so used to doing things virtually, but to finally get out there in the world and do some in-person stuff in the middle of a pandemic, it was really, really rewarding, and it really pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. So I hope to do more of that in 2022 for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. And I would be fired rightfully by Derek if I didn't ask, what are your thoughts on the beverage Sunny D?
I like Sunny D. The orange juice, yeah, I liked it growing up. I mean, it wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it. I liked it. Well, I assume you don't.
That's 5-2-1. We do have a draw. We do have a tie. Okay. I don't like it. I'll link it up here. We had a whole trial about it. I just think it's so bad, and it's bad. I just think it tastes bad, and
it's not the worst thing I've ever tried. I like it. I wouldn't say
I don't think that should be the. I wouldn't say that should be the barometer for if it's good or not, though. It's not the worst.
I would say it's good. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. I like it. It's not my all-time favorite, but
that's okay.
I'm honestly an apple juice kind of person more, but I did like Sunny D growing up, yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's go back to the past. Welcome to the past. Whoa.
Time travel.
Right?
You gotta share your secrets.
I can't.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to. Time travel rules and stuff. Speaking of which, what we're going to talk about today is the various crimes committed by Kane. Yeah, let's just jump into it because like there's so much.
Got some arson in there.
Yeah, yeah, mild arson. Who cares? But while researching this, and I unwillingly was talking to Derek, we realized that a lot of things just happen to Kane that are illegal, not Kane doing illegal things. Like, yeah, like the Katie Vick thing, like happened to Kane. Like that's allegedly too. Like that's a big allegation. We never saw that on camera, rightfully so. But like like that stuff never really happened.
No, so we don't actually know if there's no documented evidence. I guess there could be a trial in real life on it. It'd be circumstantial, like he said, she said, but she can't really say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a touchy subject. So we'll go. I have 3 just very baseline things, nothing above the surface. I'll set you back to July 14th, 2003, emanating out of I believe this is Indianapolis, Indiana, and Kane is having a sit down talk with Jr. Jim Ross. Just having a casual conversation. Jim Ross is kind of mediating. He's like, Kane, I don't think you're ugly and stuff, because this is recently after Kane had unmasked. For some reason, he was having a feud with Steve Austin. And so that's happening. And then he just kind of like pushes JR to the ground and then lights him on fire. Which, as you do.
Just normal everyday occurrences.
Yeah. But as I've been told by many people, fire bad. And so I would say that this could go one of 2 ways. This could either be arson or assault with a deadly weapon, because fire is deadly.
I think it'd probably be more of assault with a deadly weapon. Because I mean it's arson, but it's like inflicted onto a person after like pushing him. An assault was already unleashed, so I can see the argument for both, but it might be assault with a deadly weapon in this case. I would classify it as, if it was obviously real life.
Well, it's good that we have this disagreement, because according to Indiana state law, arson could be a person who, by means of fire, explosive, or destructive device, knowingly or intentionally damages property of any person under circumstances that endanger human life, property of another person without the person's consent, in the pecuniary loss of at least $5,000, or a person who, by means of fire, explosive, or destructive device, knowingly or intentionally damages property of another person without the other person's consent, so that the resulting pecuniary loss is at least $250 but less than $5,000. And yeah, so JR is wearing many different types of clothing, including a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And from what I could find out, cowboy hats go from as low as like $15, but those are called like stylish fedoras, and they can go up to like $1,000 for like a really nice cowboy hat. I think Jim Ross has like closer to the $1,000 range cowboy hat, because that's like kind of his thing. You don't really see Jim Ross, hatless.
That's true. That's a good point, because it's his personal property plus himself. So that's a good case, maybe. Especially too if it comes with the financial value that he's losing out on, besides his burning flesh. Maybe you do make a good case, because that is some personal property, is his clothing and his signature cowboy hat. So Kane, I guess, didn't really pay the proper dues for that.
Also, if you get burned, you're probably going to be out of like work for a little bit. So Jim Ross is losing money, because I'm not sure if Jim Ross is on salary, but like you definitely, I think you can't.
I don't think workers' comp would probably cover arson.
Oh, he was hurt on the job.
Yeah. So I don't know if workers' comp would come into that. I don't know if arson is covered under that.
Well, Kane is not like part of the job because like workers' comp is like you're hurt on the job.
Yeah.
And like I guess on screen if Jim Ross was ever talent relations. Because yeah. So maybe. So but Jim Ross is on screen has only been seen as a commentator and a part-time wrestler.
True. So maybe. I think maybe you're swaying me with this case for just straight up arson.
I am the best non-lawyer on wrestling YouTube is a fact. But we'll just shift on down. We'll travel into the future in the past, of course. We'll go to, of course, June 4th, 2010, a solemn SmackDown episode where Kane says that over Memorial Day weekend, The Undertaker was found in a vegetative state. Now, how a zombie can be in a vegetative state is beyond me. That just means that they're alive, I think. They're more alive than dead.
Yeah, they're alive, but not like responsive, basically.
Yeah. And then it's found out as the weeks come by that it was Kane who put Undertaker in this vegetative state. So Kane can be charged with a multitude of things. One of them being assault with intent to murder, and the other being assault with intent to kill. Now, I know everybody is thinking the same thing. What's the difference? Well, assault with intent to murder is a planned out before thing, and assault to kill. Okay. Assault to kill is a heat of the moment, spur of the moment, passion rage kill.
I think this one kind of depends on the technique of how Undertaker got in a vegetative state, whether in theory it was poison, it was like blunt force trauma, did he give him like certain drugs? I think it really depends how Undertaker got to the point of the vegetative state. That because if it's obviously like poison or like drugs, then like absolutely it's assault to murder because that's premeditated. Unless I mean you got into an argument and you just had it lying around, which I highly doubt that. But if it's maybe like blunt force trauma, then that could maybe be the assault to kill. But I think it really depends on the circumstances. And I guess they didn't do enough investigation to find out if Kane had any, the what's it called? Via the means of how Undertaker got to that vegetative state. So I think it depends on that.
Yeah, the WWE legal system is just too tied up sometimes to deal with these petty crimes of potential murder. I don't know, because you could do either. You can pre-plan hitting somebody in the face, or you can just spur the moment hit somebody in the face. So I would say that this is a planned out thing, because since Kane has been an on-screen person, he has been seen to have a rage with the Undertaker, as seen in his debut.
His brother. That makes it even worse. It's his brother. Kane does have motive, so perhaps it was probably premeditated.
And he has ways to get to the Undertaker like by himself because brothers. But since this is in parts, since Undertaker lives in parts unknown, and we don't know where this happened, so I'm assuming parts unknown. I just used the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice. I just use their terms for what this is because I don't know what state this happened, because parts unknown, obviously not in a state. And so I kind of said that, so this was basically like, I said that this was attempted murder, basically. Did you say so?
I would say so, definitely too, like premeditated attempted murder, if that's a thing. I mean, Kane had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to. Especially, he has access to the Undertaker. Probably know where he's from since they're brothers and the Brothers of Destruction. And he definitely had the motive to. And I don't think it was ever really clear what his motive was, but there was probably some brewing tension there. And then, I mean, obviously, he has the means. He's a very knowledgeable man, especially with his actions of the past, his record before that. So I would say probably if there's a thing as premeditated attempted murder.
There could be. Wow. That is wild. that is a wild concept. Premeditated attempt. I mean, that's definitely a thing. I think it's just attempted murder, and it's just like how you sentence.
Or like third, for they say first degree, second degree. It's probably first degree attempted murder.
Yeah. Yeah, she knows. And you know. Do you know? Let us know in the comments below. And then we'll just move 2 years into the future. From February, I think this is February 12th, 2012. And Kane just kind of pushes Zack Ryder, who's in a wheelchair, off a ramp.
Yeah.
And boy, is typing into Google is pushing somebody out of a wheelchair a crime. Not the best thing to be on an FBI list for, but here we are.
This was definitely in the heat of the moment because I remember this episode. It was with the whole John Cena, Eve Torres thing going on and the whole Kane thing. I don't think this was premeditated. It was probably a crime of passion or blind rage, as they would say. Would it probably just be assault?
So you would say that, except there is a separate crime for assault on a disabled individual, because even if it's temporarily, from what I found out, Zack Ryder would still be legally a disabled individual.
Even on injury? Okay.
Well, because he's in a wheelchair and he's got a neck brace on. It's rough.
So he'd probably get a longer sentence then. I felt bad for Zack Ryder during this whole feud going on there with Eve and the whole John Cena thing. Poor Zack Ryder. Just left heartbroken and broken.
I mean, yeah. But Kane could only be classified. This could only be classified actually as a Class 1A misdemeanor, which is 6 months jail time, $1,000 fine, or both. Which $1,000 seems a little light.
Should pay for Zach's medical bills.
Maybe. I mean, I sure think so. But does the state of, I believe this was in San Diego, California. So does the state of California agree with me? That's for the state of California to come up with. I'm not the state of California. I know this is a huge shock. Sorry to shock you like that. But this could, this could potentially be bad because, all these add up. And so over time, you would think that Kane would definitely have a lawyer on retention and be like, I need help. But do you think that the amount of transgressions that he pursues onto other people, do you think that adds up and crimes of passion like these don't really matter at some point?
Definitely too. I don't think that after the attempted murder, he should have been released in theory, especially assuming that, so that was what, 2010? He was released way too early from that attempted murder charge, even on good behavior, probably. So this could have been avoided, had the legal system given him the proper sentence after that 2010 incident with the Undertaker.
Right. This is less than a year and a half later. I mean, where's America come to? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Certainly not good. You know what? Let's leave that all in the past. We'll travel to the present. Hello, we're in the present now. Today's the present. And I have a question. What is Raw Underground? This debuted on August 3rd, 2020. It lasted for 8 weeks and it answered 0 of my actual questions. Like, how is this legal? Is this sanctioned by the Florida State Athletic Commission? Is this in Florida? How is Shane McMahon in charge, or is he just a spokesperson? Do the dancers get paid? I'm very confused by most of Raw Underground.
I think a lot of people were mostly confused by it because then it just disappeared really without any explanation, if I recall correctly. We saw Shane McMahon in there. We saw some WWE people, some other mysterious people from some NXT people, and I don't know if it was sanctioned fighting or what it was considered really.
Yeah, we do know that this was the only WWE fight that social distancing did not matter in, but the crowd was wearing masks, so I think that that's a plus for Raw Underground.
True.
Yeah, but there was like feuds that would happen in there, like Kevin Owens and Aleister Black, but then the Hurt Business just kind of took it over, and it was their show.
That's right.
And so does Shane McMahon just like so that makes me think that he's the spokesman. But is it also in the same, like, do the wins and losses matter there? Because if you win, you stay on. But they don't translate to actual Raw. And why isn't there a SmackDown Underground? Why is it only to Raw? Why isn't there an NXT Underground or an NXT UK Underground?
We did see some NXT people on Raw Underground, but it wasn't ever explicitly stated, I don't think. And I mean, Raw, I guess, is considered the A show in WWE programming. So perhaps they wanted to capitalize and just call it. And plus, there was more time to showcase it. But they played it in the middle of Raw. So wouldn't you think that would conflict then with viewership? Or like, I don't know. That cut out time on Raw. So I don't know.
I think Raw Underground should have been its own separate show.
Mm-hmm.
I would watch that. No, I wouldn't. But yeah, and there was a door. Shane McMahon had a door that like he would allow the camera person to come in, so it's like an invite only, but broadcast on network television.
It's like an exclusive club. Maybe they didn't know. I was gonna say they would know that they were streaming. It's like an exclusive club from like an undisclosed location or something, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't know, really. I don't know.
Yeah, and like the ring is like a regular wrestling ring without ropes.
Yeah.
But it's never said like how it got in there or who built it, because like we assume watching wrestling that like it's built by, there's like a crew who builds it, the ring in arenas, or at this time the Thunderdome. But
I would assume some of that money had to have come from the guy with the last name of McMahon. He definitely seemed all for it, so I would have to assume that he funded some of it.
So you think Shane McMahon funded it and just said, the Hurt Business can take it over. It's not for me anymore.
Maybe he wanted to get it off the ground, and then he's like, I want to take a step back and just be more of the financial advisor or the spokesperson, like not the on-screen presence. And maybe he saw that star power in the Hurt Business because they were definitely stars, and he needed some people to help him with his authority, and he trusted the Hurt Business. I mean, MVP is a businessman, so perhaps they made some deal in there to work it out.
It's true. It never came to fruition, I guess.
No, we'll never know, unfortunately. Maybe they got shut down. Maybe that's why, because they weren't paying their taxes on it or the rental on the building. I don't know.
The license for Raw Underground.
I don't know. They might have not been paying the rent for it, so maybe that's why it ended.
This is, yeah. Yeah. Another huge question is, what is a match in Raw Underground? Because some referees stop the match And then sometimes Shane McMahon says stop the match, and then it just stops. So like, is it just on the whims of Shane McMahon, or is there has to be some order, and it can't just be Shane McMahon because he's not the referee. If he was, he would be in the weird black polo.
I think though, even though in some cases, like on Monday Night Raw, like Triple H or Stephanie McMahon with the authority would make the referee call a certain decision. So I think the refs, unless they're told otherwise, like Shane McMahon, maybe they do their jobs as a sanctioned match. But when the authority, the man, the guy in charge tells you to do something, you do it because you want to keep your job. I don't know.
But we've been talking about Shane McMahon not being the guy.
That's true. But he seemed to he definitely had some leverage in there. We don't know his exact title, but he was definitely high up on the totem pole in terms of Raw Underground.
I mean, I guess, but wouldn't the referee? But don't you hire a referee to do the job? And like, wouldn't you just fire the referee if he wasn't doing the job of stopping the match?
That's a good point. I don't know. There was really not a lot of order to this whole thing. It was just kind of this unsanctioned free-for-all brawl, kind of underground dance wrestling brawl thing. I don't know.
I mean, the quote that Shane McMahon said, that this is Raw Underground, where there are very little rules, lots of excitement, carnage, chaos, and quite frankly, lots of things that I personally would like to see. So we can expect that Shane McMahon is at least some sort of like the ringmaster. Like he's definitely like a focal point, but yet he never does Raw Underground. Like you would think that Shane McMahon, wrestler, would want to do wrestling stuff because he does mixed martial arts training. So the perfect time to use it is in a place with no rules.
That is true. There's many looming questions to this. We'll have to ask Shane McMahon himself sometime.
Well, that'd be cool. If I ever talked to Shane McMahon, it probably Raw Underground would be at the top of the list to ask him.
Like, what happened?
Yeah. and why aren't I there?
Yeah.
And why and only wrestlers were there, but there was also like lumberjacks and not good lighting at all. I would have lit Raw Underground better.
Maybe that just didn't fit in the budget.
The budget, they hired the dancers. It's either dancers or lights.
Pretty
much. I'm a guy, and I'm going with the dancers. That's what Shane McMahon said. Probably. Do you have any questions about Raw Underground?
Just what happened? Like, we never got an explanation really as to why it stopped. Maybe Shane McMahon just said this is not working and just moved on. But I would just like some closure. Like, what happened?
Maybe it's an online exclusive show that like WWE doesn't talk about. Because I would love to see Pat McAfee commentate on Raw Underground if I'm going to be 100%
Or
honest.
maybe Shane pissed off his dad and then got it cut. I don't know.
Yeah. Oof. These are great questions. Well, we'll leave you in the present. We're going to travel into the future. Wow, it's the future. This is great.
Crazy.
Yeah. I can't believe he said that. Am I right? So as reported recently, and said, Wrestle Kingdom will now be 3 nights. Extending from its 2 nights, which was extending from its 1 night. And now WrestleMania is they had a word for it and I'm blanking on it. It's the most stupendous weekend of the year, WrestleMania. The most stupendous WrestleMania of all time. The two weekend. So my question is, how big can super shows be? Like, could we have a week, a month, WrestleMania, if you will? The whole month is just 8 hours of wrestling wonder
in one place, or like a different place every day.
No, the same place. WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 happened in Raymond James Stadium it should just happen in the same stadium. Just rent out the stadium for a month.
For a whole month? Oh no, absolutely not. This economy absolutely. I don't think they could, but I don't think that it would be sold out at all, because maybe people could attend maybe 1, 2, or 3 shows max, but not in this economy in the middle of a pandemic. Would you be able to fill up seats for a whole month? 2 nights? Great. It breaks up like a whole 8-hour show, like 8, 9, 10-hour show sometimes for WrestleMania, including the pre-shows. I like that it splits it up, and it kind of gives the audience some time to breathe, because sometimes like during the later matches in the nights, you're just so like worn out even just watching, and then you're like trying to stay awake. And so for me, like the two nights is perfect. And it's only 2 nights. Mania ticket prices are expensive to begin with, but at least you get like some sort of package, and it's a little bit more manageable and affordable. But a whole month, not in this economy, unless they're paying people to attend it, which I don't think that they are. You're definitely not going to be able to fill up that many seats for days on days on days, for sure, both economically, and people have other obligations too, like work and all of that too. So
well, I think the counter argument to that is people who have residencies in like Vegas, like Britney Spears and Mariah Carey, people come in to see those shows. So I think that if you market it correctly, you could totally say like, come to the Thursday the 13th episode of WrestleMania, where you see classic matches.
I feel like then it loses its value, though, if it's like, because this is supposed to be like a once a year kind of thing. And if it's like,
it is once a year, it's a month a year.
And also, though, how many matches can you do without it being repetitive, too, is the thing. Even in a 30-day span, you're definitely going to have some of the same matches, too, like day on day. I don't know.
Mariah Carey sings the same songs. I don't see a problem.
That's true.
You don't have to broadcast all of them. You could just have nights 1 and 2 that are just like broadcast, and then the rest are not house shows. They're just WrestleMania.
Then maybe there's only certain cities like a Las Vegas, because people do the Las Vegas residencies, like you said. I feel like only certain cities, maybe like a Los Angeles, a New York City, a Vegas, like the bigger cities might be able to handle that, but definitely not if it's like like where I'm from, like a Buffalo could definitely not handle that. like even though we're the second biggest city in New York, just like economically, and like even so, I just feel like people have other obligations and all of that, even if it's up at like the same time every day. I feel like you're not going to fill up a whole stadium every single night, for sure, even if you market the heck out of it, unless maybe it's in one of those bigger cities like a Las Vegas, like you said. So it depends where it is too.
Yeah. So let's just pretend it's in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, home of the Chargers, and fits like 70,000 people. They whittle it down to like 50,000. 50,000 times 30, easily a 1.5 million people in that month, that 30 days of May. Could it work? Ticket prices being as low as $50.
Maybe, and again too, it comes down to ticket prices too. If they're like steepened, oh, absolutely not. Unless they're like the rich of rich. But then again, unless they're a billionaire, maybe, but not everybody living in a city. Most people, like 95% of people, aren't billionaires. Probably it's a higher percentage than that. You might have a decent attendance, but definitely not sold out every single day, because you have people with kids, you have people who work multiple jobs. It depends too on the ticket prices. Like I said, maybe if ticket prices are lowered, like at a discounted rate for multiple days, maybe, but I highly doubt that they would be sold out every single day for 30 days.
Well, like, of course, like not like days 25 on, but maybe the middle ones.
Maybe. It depends too who's also on the card for that day too.
Exactly. Well, the WWE, thank God, has 5,000 people under contract, so they can totally just mix them up.
That's true. Or they can just bring in a new crop of talent for WrestleMania.
Oh my God, imagine every day there's a new signing. And then at the end, at the last day, the last WrestleMania day of the year, there's a battle royal and that person gets a main roster call up. That
That would
I
be
mean,
something too.
that's the storyline throughout is you get invested into these little NXT guys. I think this is genius. I think WWE should just do it. We haven't seen AEW do it yet. They're on the brink of it. I can tell. They're on the brink of having like a 2-day double or nothing. Wrestle Kingdom 3 days. That's not far enough from 4 days, which isn't far off from 6 days. They're gonna have a week-long Wrestle Kingdom.
A week, I can see like a week, yes, but a whole month, I don't know. It depends where it is, where it's based in. Like it depends who's on the card, the ticket prices. Like everything just has to align perfectly, I think, for this to really work on the business side and like people actually being able to afford it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but if you have it in like a Las Vegas, it's Vegas, so people are coming in from all different parts of the world. People are coming in from all parts of the country. I mean, this is a gamble, obviously, but that's why you do it in Vegas.
True. I guess if they're gonna try it at least once, Vegas or like Los Angeles would be a solid place to hold it.
Yeah, I think WWE should just take my advice, like everybody should, and just do it.
We'll see. Maybe they are. Maybe they'll like try a third day. I personally like the 2 days right now, but who knows? Like we say never in professional wrestling.
It's true. Well, Ella Jay, thank you so much for being a part of this, for joining me. Tell me about yourself, where we can find you on the socials.
So you can follow me on a lot of places, but if you go to my Twitter at it's Ella Jay, ITSELLAJAY. If you go to my bio in my Twitter, there is a link tree with all my links to my podcast, SC Scoops, Women's Wrestling Talk, WrestleZone. CCW should be in there. I'm the editor of Gawcast, a lot of things, but basically if you go to the link tree in my Twitter bio, you can find most of the links.
Solid. So solid. So always remember, I've been me, you've been you. We'll see you soon.